What's going on, everyone? All right, we're back with more Trails into Reverie. It's your boy Top Hat the Gamer. We're gonna continue on with the Slab of Reminiscence.
Slab of
We have one more
Reminiscence
thing to view.
activated.
They wouldn't let me record the look back to look forward, so I had to try to record it, and really gave no commentary to it because they block it on the PS5 from you seeing the scene. I'm gonna see if it does the same thing with Beyond the Reverie, but we'll see how it all works out. But here we go. Hope you guys are doing well. Hope they don't block it. These are but minute fragments of memories drifting in an endless ocean of memories of what will be in their near future. Okay, it doesn't look like they blocking this one. Could they be shadows of tangled threads woven by Elysium, or perhaps faded illusions that slip through the cracks of space and time? There are none who know the answer. Yeah, so you'll see my look back to look forward one, but it will definitely be it will be no commentary during it. It's because I had to record it separately. All right, but here we go. Another hot springs paradise. This should be interesting. January year 1208 of the Septian calendar. Between two great mountains at the tip of the Calvardian Basin sits Longai. The town is known for two things, being the eastern entrance to the Republic and its exceptional hot springs. Through these enticing factors, does it continue to welcome tourists hailing from both home and abroad. Yet today, it served guests quite unlike its many unseasoned victors. These had come from another renowned hot spring paradise situated in the northern reaches of Erebonia. Ah, okay. So his family went. The depth of flavor in the food here is just exquisite. Agreed. The Phoenix Wings food is certainly nothing to sneeze at, but I have my doubts the chef could replicate dishes this unique in taste. The Bishan Inn's reputation comes to precede itself. Baron Teo and Lucia Schwarzer were sampling the inn's culinary delights, spirits high and stomachs feeling fast. Their daughter, Elise, sat next to them, her spirit a bit lower by comparison as her brows furrowed with concern. I'm sure its luxuries come with just an equally luxurious price tag, and there's four of us, so even 2 nights must have cost a small fortune. Upon realizing what she said, she shook her head. I didn't mean to damper the mood. I know we have the money, but all my budgeting as a student council president has made a terrible habit of me seeing the numbers and everything. Her older brother Reem couldn't help but let out a chuckle. Then the budget buster in you will like how much we saved because we're not here as paying customers. We were invited by the owners personally. They said they wanted to get to know us since we run similar establishments. So here we are. And we'll be inviting them to your mirror sooner than later, of course. Right, Dad? Oh, absolutely. Add this to the list of boons coming from our countries finally coming to terms with one another. The Republic is reveling in unheard of levels of prosperity, and the relations between our people are more active and festive than ever. I, for one, welcome any opportunity to further foster friendship. The Baron took another healthy sip of his Baiji. I'm probably saying that wrong. Baiju? What the hell? Before continuing. Friendship over fighting, I say. Such a shame that the world tends to overcomplicate the simple concept. Seeing her husband's glass was almost empty, Lucia filled it to the brim while adding her own thoughts. That's all the more reason why we need to make the most of this invitation and enjoy ourselves to the fullest. Their children nodded in agreement. And even that aside, there's no reason to spoil a family vacation when we so rarely have the time to take them. Oh, I read about some unusual sweet dishes worth trying here. Would you like to share some with me, Reen? In a bit, I'm thinking of taking another soak in the hot springs, so I might be in the mood for something sweet later. Well, after. The food here is delicious, but as far as I'm concerned, the hot springs are the real star of the show. That's my boy right there. The ruling lord of the hot spring paradise would never let a good discussion about them about them pass him by. He was as fond of their quality and soothing effects as Reen, enthusiasm undeniably apparent from the warmth of his tone to the width of his smile. Their medicinal springs happen to be a favorite of mine. I can't help but be fascinated by them time and time again. I can't believe it. I've always known about them, but here's the first place I've been able to feel the way they warm you right to your core. Think we could make one available at the Phoenix Wings. It'd be worth a try, but that comes with its own obstacles. For as many problems as Teo expressed in practical terms, Green held just as many proposed solutions. The conversation grew more involved by the minute, leaving the ladies of the house to pleasantly bask in their glow and continue enjoying the meal before them. All four felt the same, that it had been too long since they could enjoy each other's company. But the wait had been well worth it. That night, after indulging in his post-dinner soak in the springs and telling his family he was going for a walk, Reen departed the inn. All right, let's do this. He took in a deep breath, the crisp night air of Long Life filling his lungs. The hot springs were an excellent bonus to his trip, to be sure, but it was not the real reason he agreed to visit. Interesting. Ah, Master Kafai. He had long come in search of young Kafai, the famed sword hermit. Master Kafai was the founder of the Eight Leaves One Blade School, of which Reen was a practitioner, and though now over 70 years old, he was still regarded as one of the strongest combatants on the continent. They had not met since before Reen's enrollment at Thor's. Many a letter was exchanged during the 4 years that followed, but even they had stopped after Reen earned the right to call himself a divine blade over a year ago. There was so very much he wished to discuss with his master. What he had learned in his 4 years of training, what had transpired since becoming a divine blade, the true meaning behind being the final blade to master the Eight Leaves. There's plenty I'd like to ask him that have nothing to do with swordsmanship too. All these questions, all impossible to answer without first knowing the whereabouts of a single individual. Even a senior practitioner like Cassius claimed ignorance, having received not a single update from their old master. He had always been an elusive but traceable sort, but wherever he was now, he was next to impossible to track. That was until the word of the blade master being sighted in Long Lai reached Reen's ears. The man held a fondness for the town's specialties, those being the hot springs and its fragrant tea leaves, making the sighting worthy of particular note. He also knew from the letters before they stopped that he intended to journey eastward, making Long Lai one of the more plausible stopping points. The word came to him just as the Schwarzers were invited to stay at the inn during their New Year vacation. Reen's instincts told him the timing was a little too fortunate, but with how vague the lead was, even it was most likely a result in him leaving the same as he had arrived. While he had not discussed the rumor being key to his traveling here, his family seemed to sense it was more than a simple pleasure trip for him. I know Dad would have a great time catching up with him, but I don't want to get his hopes up for nothing. These thoughts in mind, Reen made his way through the night streets. This would be like a really cool uh like a visual novel. At least I think it would. Or like a manga. It kind of looks like a manga. Long Lai's architecture was distinctly Eastern, making it a uniquely intriguing sight among most of the Calvert's towns and cities. This is not to say it was similar to Crossbell's East Street, with subtle colors paired with dignified beauty. Every wall and stone exuded the traditional concepts of wabi sabi. One look was enough to understand the region was rich with history. Its quiet charm would give way to contrastly lively evenings, where tourists, both western and farther eastward, were greeted to stalls dedicated to the hot springs and more. This too held a traditional sort of charm. Reen asked several merchants if they had any information pertaining to the whereabouts of his master, somewhat sheepishly purchasing a number of souvenirs from their stalls to keep himself from being a nuisance. They, he justified, would make excellent gifts for his friends, his co-workers, and his students. That's a cool little outfit. It's something actually normal, just a pair of jeans. I can't believe it's almost time for them to graduate. I might be more emotional about theirs than I was for mine. For the first time, Reem would get to experience what it was like for the young birds he had taken under his wing for 2 years to finally leave the nest. Their first year had been eventful, to say the least. What had started as a problem class full of disagreements and mounting tension had slowly grown into one of compassion and understanding for one another. It was with each new discovery about themselves and every new ordeal the world sought to impose upon them that they grew not only as individuals but as a team. He hoped this period would remain as much a meaningful part of their lives as it would always be for him. The 2 months before the Retributive Tower's appearance held many a trial, making the 10 months that followed in its shadows pass all too quickly. In that time, Reen's students continued to mature, building on everything they accomplished in their first year to prepare for and settle into their desired future. Indeed, whether it was by overcoming their demons or by learning to work with them in a healthier fashion, their paths to now had been well worn. And while they may have had to rest from time to time, he was proud to be a part of why their steps continued to face forward. Proud, but also lonely at the thought of saying goodbye. As their second year drew to a close, lacking in grandiose events, but still rewarding in its own right, it was a mixture of emotions that bore conflict within him the most. As their second year drew to a close, I'm sorry, my bad. I read the same thing twice. Sorry about that. Can't believe I'll be going through it all over again next year and even the year after that. Hell of a career I chose to pursue, huh? He didn't know when he stopped walking. Realizing this, he resumed his search, paying respect in mind to many generations of educators who came before him. No matter where he looked, he could not find Master Kafai in Long Lai. That all rhymed. It was, however, still too early to say whether the trip had been in vain, as he had at least caught an unverified report of the Blade Master being seen in the mountains of the south. Wondering such terrain at night wasn't going to be ideal, but Reen was already firm on spending the next day with his family. Tonight it would have to be. Making a brief stop to the inn to tuck his souvenirs somewhere secure, he then departed for his new destination. The mountains' winding, half-beaten trails would be more treacherous at night, but they were not off limits as such. The key, Reed knew, would be to not rely on sight alone. His senses of hearing and smell, perhaps even touch, were going to be equally vital in the hours ahead, calling upon his experience and intellect to heighten all 5 senses. He took in his surroundings in full. This really takes me back to training in the mountains. To call the experience training would imply his time being one of the simple tutelage between student and master. But it equated to so much more. The danger then was far worse than it was now, with some days requiring him to set foot in highly dangerous territories just to find the day's food to survive. It sounds like the Kunlun Mountains may have been used for a similar exercise a long time ago. Reem was certain to think on the information gained during his search as he continued along the trail. Searching for evidence of human activity in the environment like this was not a difficult task. Humans always leave something indicative of their presence behind that no wild creature could, be it a long dead fire, footprints, or traces of going on the hunt. One need only follow the like to lead to their source. Reen did so, advancing with the caution instilled in him by both his old master and hunting enthusiast of a father. They soon led him precisely to clear evidence that a human had been in the area, though the evidence itself was far from what he expected. Remains of a camp? No, it didn't look like it had been left by a martial artist in training or Roman hunters, but the most peculiar thing was that there were multiple sites like the first, all evenly spaced from one to the next. It was as though something was being measured. Maybe this is from a group of scholars doing field research, but it seems too large in scale for that. There was nothing more to be found here, Reed advanced. Soon after, he found another unusual mound of evidence. It's like someone forced their way through here in a car, or more like hacked open a path wide enough for a car to pass through. All further inspection here suggested that whoever was responsible had given up on this endeavor, leading him to wonder if they somehow found success elsewhere. And if they did, why had they done all of this? Why had they done this at all? The question pestered him. If there was anywhere to clear wide paths, the remote depths of the mountain certainly were not it. But instinct told him he was only a step away from discovering the answer. If I keep following this trail a little farther. At this thought, Reen sensed someone approaching. One person, 2 people. Yes, there were 2. And it was clear they were aware of his presence as well. Only for a fleeting second did he think they might be the ones responsible for the strange trails, but a deadly tension that now thickened the air told him there were no simple scholars. He felt them draw near, the night veiling themselves well, and then he felt them stop. How about you show yourselves? He spoke without placing his hand on his tachi, signifying to those watching that he had no desire to fight. Their silhouettes then silently emerged from the darkest shadows of the mountain. They looked very much like shinobi of the east he had heard about, their forms clad from top to bottom in black garments and their faces fully obscured. Kind of seems like he roamed into their area and they were kind of like maybe scouts. They were kind of like just noticed him. Oh, that's dope. I see your insight poses a threat after all, Divine Blade of the Empire. The contract with our client has yet to begin, but we will make an exception for one among their list of dangerous persons. The silhouettes then charged. They caught him completely off guard, drawing short, straight blades to attack him as they narrowed in. Reen's eyes widened in surprise, but nearly in the same moment he was in a fighting stance. hand over his steel sheath tachi. Fifth form, Morning Moon. That's so cool. I actually dig that. He perceived the direction of his foe's attack to evade them, then mounted a counterattack of his own. All it took was the instant to repel their assault and leave them vulnerable. Ordinarily, this would be the time to take the offensive, but all Ring could do was stare at the two with disbelief. The thought entered my mind as I saw you move, but now that we've crossed blades, he paused, disbelief in his eyes giving way to a more intent gaze. Are you practitioners of the 8th leave school? Another pause, this time from the silhouettes before answering, as though they were well aware the question was coming. No, though we do possess ties to the school. We are of the Ikaruga, practitioners of the Black God One Blade School. The what? Reem was left stunned. The two Ikaruga held their blades horizontally, ready to thrust them forward at any moment. So this group right here is led by, I think her name is Shizuna, if I'm not mistaken. And so Shizuna was trained by young Kafai in secret. And she became a divine blade. I think the youngest next to Reen. Like, I think she's the youngest to ever do it. If she's younger than Reen, I think she's younger than Reen. I think she's like 19 or something like that. And she's a part of this this organization. I think probably one of their leaders. And it looks like she may have taught them some stuff of it, not everything. And she called it something different for herself. But I do remember her being a part of this group from what I saw. So we're going to read on. I'm pretty sure she's probably going to show up here. Let's see. It was as though they wanted to make clear that while they had been caught off guard once, he would not be so fortunate twice. Reem responded by assuming the middle stance with his Tachi. But just as his sides were only a beat away from engaging in battle, what could only be described as a black cyclone roared from the darkness at such speed that it seemed certain to slice anything it touched. Its appearance caught Reem by surprise, more than the initial attacks by the silhouettes. He had not suspected an attack from that angle, that distance, or even that moment. His enemies, on the other hand, did not so much as flinch at the sight. The approaching blade, over an arch and a half in length, I'm guessing, I keep on forgetting the arch and ridge here. They have like different ways. I can't think of it right now. It was heading directly for Ring's back. He couldn't possibly dodge it now. Perhaps he should have noticed. Perhaps it was impossible to notice. Whatever the answer, the divine blade of the Empire would soon fall. The silhouettes waited in for his final moments to be convinced of no other fate in his future. When Rin spun his body into a full circle, applying the intensity built into his Tachi from the motion to swing. The blow was made weighted, yet precise, shifting the incoming blade to a new direction without mitigating its near overpowering force. This technique was an application of the first form, Helix. There was no greater course in the moment than to use it to redirect the attack without it ever making direct contact. The spinning blade was now significantly off its intended course, but Reen slashed at it again, birthing a shock wave that further shifted its path. The blade went flying hairs to the right of the direction it had come from. A hand was there to deftly catch it in midair. You may have only recently taken the title but you are worthy of being called a divine blade, all the same. You used the unclouded eye well. From his hand emerged a new figure from the darkness. While he was clad in similar garments to the silhouettes, something about his presence was much more inspired by comparison. His musculature was thoroughly discernible beneath his body-covering fortified suit. His every movement, however slight, reflected a complete lack of hesitation, and the faint light of his eyes, visible through his mask, projected no emotion whatsoever. The man possessed the aura of a true warrior, one projected only by those who have fought more battles than was possible to count. Fall back. He is too formidable a foe for you to handle. The silhouette slid into the darkness in an instant. Only the new arrival was left to face Reem. I need to know, who are you, and why did you attack me? Our contract forbids the disclosure of such information. You will leave this place now, fledgling divine blade. The tone was not one of advice, nor one of an order. It was as if a man was stating a fact, his calmness veiling an undertone of malice that told Reem what would happen if he did not do as he was told. I'm afraid I can't do that without an explanation. Not when I haven't found what I'm looking for yet. I understand then. There was no longer anything to discuss. All they could do was battle. I, Kurogane of the Rogetsu School, shall be your opponent. Kurogane stood at attention, the large blade he had thrown before now pointed. I'd have rather settled this with words, but I can see that's not an option. Reen sighed, taking his stance in turn. Oh man, then Reen Schwarzer, master of the 8 Lees, 1 Blade School, 7 Form, shall be yours. The divine blade moved instantly. The bizarre weapon Kurogane wielded was less akin to a sword and more 4 equally sized blades arranged in the shape of a cross, their bases connecting to a single point. Just basically say it's a damn shuriken. that he could direct this large weighted shuriken, as though it were a simple child's toy, spoke volumes about how strong he was. Still, that was crazy, even if it was not infallible, for it was not one to be ideally used in close-range combat. Kurogane appeared to have no other key weapons on hand, either meaning that Reen could force him to fight where he would be at his most disadvantageous. He would very likely come out of this the victor. This was what he had in mind when choosing to act first. Second form, Gale. He closed the gap between them, drew his blade, and made a wide swing toward his opponent in the blink of an eye. Kurogane blocked the blow with ease. That, however, meant nothing in the larger scheme of things. Reen knew well this man's capabilities. So long as the gap between them was closed, and it was, he considered the attack a success. But just as he thought he would be able to push onward and overpower his foe by mounting a new fierce assault, Kurogane had split his cross-shaped shuriken in half. Oh shit. The ease at which he did made it clear this was intended by design. It's spin into two, basically 2 sabers, the double-sided sabers. That's pretty cool, actually. It's a dope weapon. He can wield dual sabers. There was no hiding his shock. In the West, double sabers were seen as relics from the Dark Ages that were difficult to utilize. Crow was the only person Reen knew who was competent with one, and only one. Crow's was big as shit though. Crow's had, like, his was very long. It's almost as long as his body. So this guy seems like he has 2 kind of They seem wider, but the blades seem shorter. So I don't know. We'll see. The skill it would take to use two was almost too difficult to fathom. His his surprise created an opening that Kurogane was not going to let pass unexploited. Possessing twin two-ended blades allowed the shinobi to perform considerably more strikes than Ring, giving him no giving him no chance to push back. Steel sparked as their weapons clashed. Kurogane was dominant for some time, but he could do nothing to bolster his advantage. With strike and spark, after strike and spark, the advantage was moving back to Ring. Yeah, eventually he was going to get tired because he two weapons moving at that weight. Yeah, eventually he's going to wear down. This was in part due to him being used to fighting this weapon that defied rationale, but it was also because he had been given the time to find what he was looking for, the perfect range in which to attack. Double sabers were forged with shorter reach than they appeared to have, something inevitable due to their handle being in the middle. It could have been because he was used to them as a shuriken, but the length of Kurogane's sabers were even shorter than Crow's. Exactly, see? Meaning Rin would have to adjust with the longer length of his blade. He measured patiently, staying only just out of Kurogane's reach and evading the onslaught by a hair's breadth each time prior to countering. It was calculated quickly thanks to Kurogane's frequent, rapid attacks, meaning all Rin had to do now was wait for the right moment. This is actually well explained. Like, they're breaking this down. You can actually picture this fight in your head. This is really good. This moment would come in the form of his opponent showing impatience for this stalled battle, driving him to take an unheeded step towards Rin. Rin evaded the strike. Expert. I almost ended up butchering the word, instantly returning it with an upward diagonal slash. The forceful swing of his tachi made contact with the handle of Kurogane's home-swung weapon, knocking it clean out of his hand. Rin dashed forward to make use of this veiled opportunity, but after only a flicker of bewilderment, Kurogane moved to deny him. He blocked Rin's attack with a double saber still in his possession, then hurled a hitting kunai with his free hand, jumping back a significant distance while doing so. It's a nice move. Very good, Divine Blade of the Eight Leaves. You may pale to the skills of our princess. There he goes. He's talking about her. But you, without a doubt, deserve your reputation. Princess. Rin's notation, when unanswered, as Kurogane took a notably different stance than before. I shall demonstrate my respect for your skill with my finest technique. This put Rin staunchly on guard. Senses heightened, he focused every nerve in his body, fixing his eyes on whatever was to come of Kurogane, who was now gone. Damn, nothing remained where Rin's opponent had once stood. He had taken his eyes off him. He hadn't taken his eyes off him, never eased himself for a moment, yet Kurogane was nowhere to be seen. How? Had he moved that quickly? Was it some kind of spatial translocation? But there were no signs to indicate either one. Was it that he never moved at all and was still there, sight unseen? No, that wasn't it either. The double saber Rin had repelled to the ground was also gone. I can still sense him, so he hasn't gone far. Rin suppressed the panic welling up within, honing his senses a second time. That was when another black cyclone swirled toward him from the shadows. He half expected something of this nature, so with little deviation, he was able to deflect it as he did the first time. The attack indicated that Kurogane had reassembled his shuriken after recovering its lost half, so he could throw it again. It also indicated, together with the slight changes in his surroundings, where he was now positioned, Green had needed a little more time to know where he was for certain. But ahead of making a solid conclusion, the cyclone came at him yet again from a new angle. That was fast. Though he blocked his attack as well as the last, before he could fully correct his posture, the next cyclone approached. The gap between was getting shorter and shorter. Damn. There was another. The time was shorter. And another, shorter. Soon these assorted smaller cyclones were seemingly growing into a blended grand storm of death, with Reen trapped at its center. This doesn't feel like I'm being attacked by a single person. Did he make phantom copies of himself? He had no idea from where the next cyclone would form, and by the time he located it, the next one was ready. Even the unclouded eye wasn't going to be enough for him to deduce Kuragane's location. He had been able to repel every blade that he met with so far, but that was growing increasingly difficult. I didn't want to use it, but I'm not sure I have no choice. Well aware that doing so would place him in danger, Rain took his mind off the battle. He gave up blocking and evading attacks, dedicating the bare minimum of his focus to not sustaining lethal blows and focusing his mind inward. He focused on the power that he had long cultivated inside of him, the power he had feared, loathed, and rejected, the power he now relied on, desired, and nearly surrendered himself to, the power he faced with his loved ones at his side, making it a true part of himself. With his mind clear as day, he unleashed his full strength. Enlightened spirit unification. He imbued his Tachi with the great power surging out of him, crying out as he did so, and spinning his body forcibly around to create a bladed circle around him. The energy released by his Tachi repelled all forthcoming shuriken with ease, and with them, Kuragane's phantom copies lurking in the darkness faded to nothing. With that, there you are. He charged toward your Kuragane. The man was thoroughly overwhelmed by Reen's sudden counterattack, throwing him completely off balance. There was nothing he could do to repel what would come next. It's time to settle this. Reen swung his Tachi downward while pouring all of his might into a final single strike. But just as the two felt the battle was coming to an end, Zeroth form, duality. So there she is. That's her form. That's what she mastered. It was like I don't think it's an actual like form. It's like something that it's like a hidden form, something like that. I forgot what it was when I read it. Accompanied with a voice as beautiful as a bell was a slash tearing through the sky, its color so black it threatened to eclipse the moon. It effortlessly stopped Reen's weapon from reaching its target. But that wasn't all. What? With a high-pitched metallic sound, Reen's beloved Tachi was sundered. God damn. Cleanly in two. Damn, she cut his blade in half. Princess. Kuragane was also taken aback by this new arrival. Dang. I heard what was happening from both our scouts. You could have invited me to join the fun instead of keeping it all to yourself. The words as she chided Kuragane indicated dissatisfaction, but the music of her tone betrayed her excitement. Reen made to see who this mysterious figure was. There she is. What a badass. She even has stands. And the sight of her alone took his breath away. She was young, wearing a fortified suit that looked to be a marriage of classical and modern Eastern styles, with long silver hair that almost appeared to glow in the pale moonlight. She's beautiful too. I saw a picture of her. She is beautiful. But what girl in the game isn't beautiful? I mean, her age was likely close to Reen's, perhaps a little younger, with well-defined features. Yeah, well-defined features, yeah, that still held traces of adolescence. Parents strikingly in contrast to the empty void behind her eyes. There was the air of a young noblewoman who had been sheltered from impurities all her life, and the stench of a baleful warrior who had bathed in the blood of countless lives. How she was both and neither at once, Reen could not understand, but it was this very quality that made her all the more captivating and dangerous. In the woman's left hand was a large black engraved blade that threatened to freeze him for daring a glance at it. No doubt, it was what halved Reen's Tachi moments ago. What? What did? Reen fumbled for the words as he clutched the useless handle tightly in his hand. The fair-haired woman only smiled as she looked down upon it. Your weapon was very fine, but it was never any match for my friend, I'm afraid. She spun the black blade in her hands around gently before holding it up towards the night sky, to seemingly display it with pride. It wasn't hard to see why she would boast about possessing such a weapon. He had seen many a blade of historical significance, but instinct told him that hers was way better than any of those. The blunt side featured an intricate design of deep gray that, while he could not discern its meaning there and then, he knew was nothing less than a work of art. Sorry about that. There was an aura about it, one cold as ice, that seemed to reject its worldly surroundings, making it capable of cutting through anything it so desired. It came in company with a beautiful hilt of deep red that contrasted its body without feeling out of place. This juxtaposition was, in sense, much a reflection of its wielder, with their two opposing natures being distinctive, yet also as one. Reen thought as he observed, her blade was clearly something special, but that alone did not explain the strength behind her attack. He had never heard of the technique she used, but it was certainly connected to the 8 leaves in some way, and the skill she showed in executing it made her equal to a divine blade. He was so fixated as these thoughts rushed through his mind that he was only brought out of her by her sudden laughter. I didn't think I'd ever meet you here. I wonder if our old master is behind guiding us to the same place. Or if it's just a happy coincidence. Or if it's, I don't know. If you get the dude there, wait. The manner in which she spoke and her familiarity with Reen gave him a theory. That technique you just used was really something. Consider me intrigued. It's put you a league above, more interesting than our senior practitioners. So he was right. Are you? But before he could hear what he already knew, she turned away, refusing to let him finish the question. He isn't here. So why don't you run back to your family? Go and make the most of your vacation. Just don't let your skill with the blade slip. The world will need it again one day. She spoke with certain satisfaction as she pointed down to the other half of his broken blade. And then she leaped high, seemingly disappearing in the other side of the moon. Damn. Reen could only stare, dumbfounded as she vanished. He couldn't even speak. Kuragane left with her. Damn, she cut his shit in half. The Ikaruga, the Black God, One Blade School, and our senior practitioners. Reen had been unable to fulfill his objective, and not just that, he was left with countless new questions about the people he encountered and the mountain itself. He felt there was some meaning behind being guided to this specific place, but how important it was, or what it entailed, he did not know. And yet, the person responsible for discerning that won't be me. Looking down his broken tachi, he was struck anew with how massive the world truly was. And he realized that now that his master was confirmed to be elsewhere, the purpose of his visit to Long Lai was nothing more than to enjoy a wonderful, ordinary vacation with his family. This meeting here was but a peculiar coincidence. For now, at least. When I get back, I'll need to reforge my tachi and myself. Something stirred in this region, all across Calvert, but there was nothing he could do about that, as he was. All he could focus on was training and bettering himself so he could one day play a part against the next threat that loomed over the distant horizon. New resolve welling into his soul, he made his way through the now still mountain trail back to where his family awaited, loving family awaited. Interesting. Very interesting. Another hot springs paradise. Damn. Oh, sorry. Certainly something. All right, I'll end here. When we come back, we'll continue on with the unconventional student and return to the garden. Oh, well, it's like it's just two of them. I said return to the garden like it was an episode. But yeah, but thank you guys for rocking with me on that. That was very interesting. I wish they would have done it where it was narrated or something. But y'all got to hear my voice. I know y'all probably tired of hearing my voice by now, so sorry. But I do like the manga approach to that. Manga. So I say it wrong. The manga approach to that. But I don't know. I wish that could have been like longer and had more. They actually put it out as a novel. That'd have been pretty cool. Whoever wrote that is really, really good. The fight scene between him and Kurogane was very detailed. Really good. I'm very interested in learning more about this Shizuna character too. I can't wait for the new series as it comes out. But thank you guys for rocking with me. I appreciate everybody checking out the vids. As always, if you're new to the channel, tap that like button, subscribe if you haven't, and I'll see you in the next one. Peace.